I'm thinking now that doing all the research in that, and I've also been reading what some other people have been talking about, is that this may be one thing that could lead towards the implementation of the social credit system. Who's to say a World War III would come? What will happen to the global financial markets? What will happen to the system itself? I mean, we're going through inflation problems right now. And so, is this one sort of avenue for a financial reset, as they say, or the Great Reset?
The long-term achievability of the actual Great Reset is not going to go according to plan in general. There's just way too much opposition to it. And I liken this to the situation where, you meet somebody who's new in the group, and that person is really nice to all the friends, but quite divisive in the background, behind the scenes. It's the person you regretted meeting. You ever have that epiphany one day? You think, oh God, I wish I never met that person. So much trouble created by one individual among social circle or work circle or something like that. This type of person that you just regret. So the globalists are like, we regret meeting them. Absolutely regret meeting them. But the problem is that they are very well organized in terms of the media and their mind control, and they've been working on that for years and years and years. But the problem is that it takes time for justice to turn. Like when they first launched the scandemic, then they had the upper hand because they had the control of the media. There was no information. They could shut down websites for misinformation. They could shut down speakers for misinformation. But now, two years plus in the game, and so many papers have come out, scientific studies, researchers, that are just confirming what the initial whistleblowing doctors in the industry said right from the beginning. So now, and so they lost that window. They should have really, if they wanted to be successful, they could have gone full on draconian during that window when they had full control over the media and it was fresh. But they hesitated, and of course, there's some higher level pushback. Of course, you've got what we call the white hats,
Yes,
fighting the black hats. So there's a whole nother operational level above the citizens. So the citizens are here to support those operational people above, essentially. They're there in their positions, fighting at a higher level. And it's the citizens, the freedom movement. The truth is, it's their responsibility to keep everything stable, to stabilize the country. So, you don't lose infrastructure. You keep the economy working, keep everything nice and steady, keep the violence down, keep it stable. We don't want any, calls for violent uprisings, because that's what Sri Lanka did. And look what happened to them. They're now run by the United Nations, right? So that's exactly their goal. So we go back to the Dutch, we go back to the Netherlands. Their example is the best example. It is a passive non-compliance. And that is way more powerful, because they literally, this time they have control of shutting down the system. Whereas before, they were at the mercy of the globalists shutting down the system. So they've taken the upper hand. They've gone offensive. They're acting offensively and not defensively. And that's where New Zealand needs to go. It needs to go on an offensive position, not a defensive position. And if they go on a violent uprising, then there's plenty of Antifa in New Zealand that work for the government anyway. They work for the Democratic Party to cause more mayhem. So we got to subdue the likes of those organizations and Black Lives Matter and all of that, without being racist or anything like that. But
and agents of the Matrix, I call them.
Yeah, agents of change. I remember that back in the days, they were called agents of change. And this is a very old expression, 20 years plus ago. They were called agents of change. And this is how they achieved their color revolutions and so on. So yeah. So in that case, New Zealand is looking good at the moment. in that respect. It's growing. It's growing
Aware.
Aware, and it's becoming more mature. And there's a few higher ranking people who have been topped off their position at the top in the freedom movement, but that's okay. There's a lot of new young blood. There's a lot of new people, and we need that kind of dynamic environment for these new people to grow and grow their own groups and grow their own environments and grow their own freedom villages. And this is what we need. We need this positive action. We don't need a violent uprising.